Hi, I'm Michael Sherrill, and welcome to this retrospective of my work. Moved in my studio here 21 years ago, and being out in this environment has been the powerful influence in my work. I mean, it's changed my work from being an interior type of work where it was minimal and simple, sort of more urban. I fell right into this world, and it didn't take long before it started to change the way I saw things, the oddities and how life continues to grow, and it changed my work. When I started in school, I didn't realize I had a learning problem. Dyslexic was something I didn't even know what the word was. I just knew that I didn't test well and struggled. In junior high, I was put into LD classes, learning disabled is what that means. But at the same time, I was smart enough to realize that I wasn't that dumb. There was one thing I could do, which was could draw and paint and make stuff. And so that was where I got a little self-esteem as a kid. My mom was a fierce kind of woman when it comes to trying to make sure that I was not left behind. And I grew up with a father who was kind of cool. He raced motorcycles. He loved the inner life of what he did as a creator, as a maker of machinery. I think I was 17 or 18 years old, and I knew that I wanted to make pots for a living. I went to see my father, who was ailing, and I sat down with him and I said, "Dad, what do you think about me going out and trying to make pottery for a living?" He says, is that crazy or what? And he said, "Son," he said, "work is hard and difficult." He said, "It's really nice when you love what you do. I think you should do what you love." It was the moment in my life where I felt like I'd been given permission. When I moved to the mountains of North Carolina, I had some soft kiln brick and a kick wheel and some hand tools, and that was it. And a little bit of money, not much. And I built my first studio against my landlord's milk barn. The first 4 or 5 years of my potting life, my loss rate in my kilns would be sometimes half or 3/4. And as a maker, I've done it out of this sort of simple necessity of figuring out the next thing. What does it take for me to basically make stuff that people would buy so that I could eat, so that I could continue to make stuff? And when it came to help, there are people like Cynthia Bringle. I was hitting my head against the wall with some things, and I would go to her and she would generously open up her glaze book and help me get over things. To this day, that woman is my second mother, at least in the craft world. In the middle of my career, something happened that really changed everything for me. I became a single parent. Somehow, some way, I was able to feed my kids and make work and survive, and my kids ate a lot of ramen. It was a difficult time, but also a time that opened up something new for me. I met my wife, Marjorie.
I met Michael at Penland School of Crafts. He was a divorced dad with 3 kids in tow, making his living as a potter, so he was a real catch.
She's a creative person as well, and so our ability to share a language about creativity and making made us very close.
When we were first married, it was really clear that Michael needed some help with a part of his life as a maker, filling out the forms to go to shows, and how do you get your work presented, and that was kind of a role that I stepped into early on.
Marjorie just gave me that chance to go from being a regional kind of artist to provide me this opportunity to really reach further. All of a sudden I was doing Smithsonian Craft Show. Out of that came an opportunity for me to be picked up by museums. Being in the White House collection was absolutely amazing. I mean, I was in line with all my heroes. I have 6 children, and all of them have been creative. And they've had the opportunity to exercise their creativity from a young age. Making and becoming an artist has been my life because it really gave me the chance to be myself. And that sense of self-expression to me has just been a joy in my life. And I think it is for anyone who creates. My vision of what I wanted to be was a potter to start with and to work in clay. But it didn't take long for that to say, well, I've got skill, I've figured a lot of this stuff out, and well, self-expression became more important than whether a pot was functional or not anymore. It was almost starting to move me into the idea of aesthetics and what fascinates the eye and what keeps people interested in an object. That became part of my query about my work. So it's all grown out of the same thing, but it's like where I want to take it has broadened as my life has kind of opened up. I mean, I look back on some of the stuff I've made and I realize that there is this wide gap between a kind of a narrative piece and then I turn around and make something like the red lacquer teapot. And it's just really a celebration of that form and a celebration of that sense of what lacquer looks like and how it feels. There are pieces that are playful and then there are pieces that are incredibly serious and abstract. When I started doing sculpture alone was at the end of making teapots, where I started taking those objects and making them totally non-functional. No reference to a teapot whatsoever. But that drove me back into porcelain, which I've always loved. And that became sort of this new vehicle, and it opened up this wonderful color palette. And one of the things I was looking for was this kind of merger or a skin to the work that I was creating. I would walk around outside my studio and pick up something, and I said, this is all one thing. You know, say it's a beautiful leaf from one of my trees. I look at it and it's waxy and the colors are incredible, and I'm sort of drinking it in. And I'm going, how do I make my objects have that kind of soul or completeness or wholeness that's sort of bringing the clay, the material, glass, clay, whatever I'm doing, I'm always trying to bring them into this kind of harmony if I possibly can. Because I feel like there's a power in that. Being immersed in anything is, to me, pretty powerful. A studio life is just that. Studio life, if you're lucky, is an immersion of really dealing with making. The first half of my making life, I was a sole practitioner. And the last half of my studio life has been more of a team that supports a lot of the things that I do. And also that my inventor side is also sort of scrambled up like eggs with my art, in the sense that to design a tool or to make art is, to me, the same thing. There's no difference between them.
I would hear him downstairs in the studio like hammering and sawing and essentially recreating whatever it was he bought to use as a tool and making it his own tool. And so that really was the birth of mud tools.
A lot of my tools follow what my work is about to a certain degree. I've done a lot of carving, so therefore I make carving knives and I make paddles. There's also an attempt to make tools that are very universal. An extruder is nothing but a large Play-Doh factory for people who want to work in clay. I tried all the ways other people were making dies and they weren't sufficient enough. They just didn't work very well for me. So I started thinking about it, and as a result I refined those dies and made them so they functioned better. Then that extruder die became a more important tool to my studio, because I saw that not just could it make teapot handles and spouts, it could make sculpture. And it became a sculptural tool for anything that was smaller or elongated. It's one of those things I think people are surprised about what they can do with it and what the benefits are working with it. My tools are used in ways that I never imagined them to be used, and I'm very thankful for that. What excites me now about what I'm doing is I'm sort of taking all this information I've got over the past 10 or 12 years, and I'm actually returning back to a minimal kind of way of looking at things. So I'm making these things that are creating threads of color with clay, and then they're being dissected and opened up. So every time you set something up, I call it organizing, you're organizing this clay or this structure, and then you open it up and be surprised, just like you'd be surprised if you opened a kiln and all of a sudden there's this incredible thing you can see. And that sense of serendipity is so engaging for me, and hopefully that it's engaging for the people who see it. There's been so many times that I've had an idea that's been sustained for a long time. In other words, I've been in pursuit of something. I've seen it on the horizon, I've been looking at it, trying to find it. Eventually, I kind of could bring the things that fit together down into some place where I could understand it and to make something powerful. It's like Legos. When they click together, it's really cool. Just pop, go, wow, look at that. And I think it goes back to trying to understand my world and to bring those things that create some kind of structure or harmony or beauty, or even communicate other emotions like angst and fear and death. It makes itself tangible at that point. It's no longer just an idea or a thought or something way out there, but it's made itself all the way back to become reality. And to me, that's just, that's what feeds me. I mean, that's my bowl of oatmeal.